Wow, what an opening race of the final of the SRO Esport GT Series. We've got about an hour or so until round race 2, so let's have a walk around, see if we can find some drivers and a few interesting people to chat to. The sun has set at Barcelona, so it's still warm, but not quite as bright as it once was, and let's see if we can find a few people at rest. And the first gentleman I can see on his telephone, trying to avoid eye contact, is the Thrustmaster Racing team manager. Eric, your boys finished first and second in the opening round. Are you pleased?
So happy. You can't imagine. It's really, it's a dream that comes true, but there's still another race, and this one will be tough.
So, the Camels, both Camels, absolutely peerless so far this weekend. Fantastic driving, never really matched by anybody else. How confident and comfortable are you that the guys can achieve, again, a similar kind of result?
I'm sure they have the possibility to do it and the potential to do it. After, it's really a matter of, everything can happen in a race, so we never know till the end, till the finish line. But I hope that they deserve it. They deserve to get some victory.
Superb, thank you, Eric. And while we're talking to Eric, here's a chap who basically we've covered for 58 minutes and 13 seconds of a 60-minute race. Kuba Brzezinski. Kuba, what a drive, man.
Thank you. I mean, I'm not sure how I pulled it off, but I'm happy that it worked.
We were kind of taking bets, Chris and I, in the middle of the race. Can you hold this for the next 50 minutes? Can you hold it for the next 30, next 20? That's intense pressure.
Yeah, I was pretty sure I wasn't going to hold it, but I knew I needed that P3 because obviously the race pace isn't strong, so I knew I had to finish P3 at least now to have any chance overall. So that was my only chance. I tried it and it worked.
So was that the ultimate pace of the car that you were running there, or were you playing a strategic defensive game?
No, well, obviously when the two guys in front pulled away, I started driving a bit defensively, not focusing on lap times as much, but keeping it clean, not making mistakes, getting good exits and stuff. So no, it wasn't like the ultimate pace of the car, but I definitely do struggle with tyre wear.
And Chris, we enjoyed that one a great deal, didn't we? Have you got a few words for Kuba?
We did. I've got a really important question to ask. Are you going to be opening the Kuba Brzezinski School of Defensive Driving anytime soon?
Yeah, we actually opened a coaching feature with Williams Esports, so that might be like my special trick that I might coach.
Fantastic drive anyway, and importantly, another race is still to go. How are you feeling about that one?
Well, judging from the first race, I need to nail qualifying, I think. Get the track position on them, and then hopefully the tires hold up a bit better than previous, and I can hold them off again. Brilliant.
Well done, mate. We'll move on. Thank you very much. So that's Kuba Brzezinski, who drove the big Bentley all the way through to P3 under absolutely intense pressure throughout the course of the race. Now we're in the Esport part where you'll find one or two tame racing drivers. So we've got a few gentlemen here, and David Tanitza, great drive, exciting race. How did you get on with that one?
Yeah, it was a tough one. In the first part of the race, I was behind the Williams driver. I was trying to overtake him, but I didn't have the straight line speed. And then Giovanni came with us, so it was very hard.
Yeah, it got very tense for a while, where there were sort of 3 or 4 of you separated by literally a throw of a piece of paper. How difficult is it to tell the folks at home, defending and attacking at the same time, and knowing that if you make a move in front and then you drop back a further car, it makes the battle all the more difficult?
Yeah, it was very hard because if I wanted to overtake, for example, Giovanni, I had to take care also of the driver in front to not do any incidents, so it was really, really, really hard.
Now, importantly, that's only the first of 2 races, so you've got a solid result in the bag. There are points, of course, so race 2 very much can make it up. How are you feeling about race 2? Confident?
Yeah, very confident. I think I can make it to the podium, but first I have to do a good quali, as I did in the previous race, so let's see.
And just as aside from the racing, you've got a very cool... that must feel pride.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to race for Ferrari. So I will try to reach the podium.
Do you ever get bored of saying it's a pleasure to race for Ferrari? That's everybody's dream, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. congratulations, great race, best of luck in the next one. And while we're on the subject of Ferrari, your teammate, who looks like he really doesn't want to do this one, was Lorenzo. You had also a very interesting fight. It was Axel Petit, I think you spent most of the time basically glued to him. How did the race go from your point of view?
Really well, except for the start. I lost one position, but I was hoping to maybe recover to the Bentley, to the other guys in front of me, because they fought a lot, but it was really hard because I had a flat spot with the front right tire, and then it was difficult for me. But my defensive, I think, was really good compared to Petit. Unfortunately, last 2 laps, he crashed into me in the hairpin. He crashed into me, and then I finished it in P8. And I was unlucky because I was in P6, and then it was better.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame having such a close and good race for it to end that way. But this is only the first of 2. So next up, race 2. There's points for both events. How are you feeling about your chances for a second 60-minute race?
I think that I will be more aggressive at the start, but obviously I don't want to crash. I don't want to do something stupid. But we will see. I hope in the top 5.
Yeah, top 5, excellent. And just one last quick one before we move on. The 60-minute races, you've got a force feedback wheel, you've got this beautiful game park that we're in now, and the pressure of live competition. How tiring is it as a driver to be in that kind of environment? Not once, but twice.
I was in the first race. I looking into the time, and there was 45 minutes to go. Oh God. I really don't want to think the next race, the next 60 minutes. It's incredibly hard.
Well, great drive anyway. We thoroughly enjoyed it at home, so well done. Thank you very much. While we're stood in front of, this is where a lot of the technical magic happens. So this all doesn't just appear on your screen. So everybody's beavering away, I'm sure, giving away the trade to the secret. But just a little interesting insight. And I've got a couple of chaps here that also had a very dominant performance. So I'm gonna start from this side. And Camille, P2, good drive. How's that felt?
Quite good. Very good, actually, but let's not get too excited because it's not finished yet. Yeah, but let's continue the great pace and fantastic teamwork in the second race so we can finish both on the podium, I think. It's possible, so let's do this.
You both displayed outstanding performance and outstanding pace comparative to rivals. At one stage, I think, Camille, you ended up 10 seconds to the good at the end of the line, and there was 7 or so seconds back from the Bentley in P3. How difficult is it to maintain that level of pace, knowing that you've got Kamil Pawlowski right behind you, who's absolutely capable of matching that speed?
Well, having a Kamil Pawlowski behind me is quite a comfortable situation because he's my teammate, so I'm sure he's not going to do anything stupid. But at the same time, I was trying to slowly build the gap, to be quicker, 1-2 tenths of a second each lap, to have some room for error, for example. If I lose the car or go sideways or go off track, it's still a couple of seconds to recover and still remain on P1. So not easy task to do, but yeah, I could do very good lap times, lap after lap, almost the same lap times all the time. So yeah, the pace was really good, and I was happy with that.
Chris, again, we kind of expected, didn't we, that these two guys would show a good turn of pace. Have you got something to say about this?
Yeah, I mean, of course we expected these guys to be fast, but the real question, and it's not a question, can you guys explain turn 1 and 2 to us, just quickly?
Ooh, took the words out of my mouth. We'll start with you, sir.
Actually, can you explain the turn 1 and 2? Because, yeah, Kamil talked with me after the race, and he he told me, "Well, whoa, mate, we almost crashed there. I mean, there was a contact between us that I didn't feel. I didn't know we had a contact there. Did we have it?"
Go on. There were 2 or 3 like small touches. Yeah, they weren't big, but you know, for teammates, it was big.
There was some nerve-wracking moments there, certainly. And again, from your point of view, obviously you've got the pole position and you've got your teammate with you. There's been some quite close. There was close fighting all the way through that opening lap, wasn't there, throughout the field?
Yeah, so from the last round qualifier from Nürburgring, I knew that Kamil is barely leaving a space for another car. But this time I think was just a few centimeters less than it should be, so we touched. He didn't feel it, but I felt it so much. I think that I was thinking that he crashed after this contact, but then I found out that we are too wide into the second corner, and for part of third corner we've been too wide as well. Yeah, that was kind of tricky for teammates, but luckily we survived and everything settled down after fourth corner, so we could focus on our pace and just to pull away of everybody.
Luckily, Kamil was faster, so this situation couldn't. Yeah.
Well, all's well that ends well, but obviously we've got another race now. So can you turn the tide and snatch a victory in race 2?
Seeing the Kamil's pace, I don't think it's possible. He's so fast this time that I couldn't manage it. At the end of this race, I was pushing so hard just to fight for the fastest lap of the race, but still it was 2 tenths to Kamil, and where do I find this time? It's impossible. Yeah.
Well, great performance, Chris. I'm sure you'll agree from all the fields, to be fair, but certainly from Kamil Foroske and I can never pronounce it. I can say W's instead of V's. And Kamil Frenchek. So brilliant. Really enjoyed it. Well done, guys, and superb performance. And we'll have a quick last look around the game park and see if we can pick anybody else up on the way. Gents, good luck in race 2. Thank you. And so that's the game park, as you've seen. You've seen that we've got our commentary booth next door, so we've had a quick look at that one as well. And it's been a fantastic weekend. Thoroughly enjoyed the SRO Esport GT Series. And it's getting better and better. And one last gentleman I'm going to speak to here is Mr. Kunos, Kevin. Kevin, race 1, final round at season, over and done with. How did you find that? Enjoy it?
No, because I was slightly too busy, and you know, it's always tense. But yeah, of course, it was a great race. Our biggest problem was to switch, to decide what group to show at many places. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. So this is obviously Kevin Stuck from Kunos. For anybody that doesn't know Kevin from our previous broadcasts, it must be a great feeling. Your product, your sim. In this, we're at Barcelona, man. It's a beautiful place to be. Brilliant drivers, phenomenal. What's that feel like for someone to be in that position?
Actually, it's so overwhelming that you don't even notice around here. You're busy doing stuff, stressed, but then in the evening you get home, or sometimes just, you know, shutting down here, walking out, and then everything tickles in, and it's unbelievable.
And have you got a final word to say about our esport drivers? These are the pros, these are the guys that qualified through the semi-final events. What a performance and what a show.
Scary. It's just scary. They're monster machines. If you look at them, how they prepare with what focus and their consistency, their preparation, setup work, everything, it's so professional, unbelievable.
I'm sure Mr. Hayes come sloping into the shot here. Quick question, Chris?
I didn't have a question, actually. I was just sort of gradually bringing this whole piece to a close.
Well, based on that one then, I'm sure anybody who's watched the opening race will totally agree with me here. The future of esport and sim racing is incredibly bright. The SRO Esport GT Series, the partners Fanatec, AK Informatica, Pirelli, Sparco, Van Thrustmaster, of course us at RaceDepartment. A fantastic weekend, a fantastic season, one race left to go. I've loved it. Stay tuned. Yep, so the cars are double file. They're hopefully going to double file up. If race control are satisfied with the grid, we will get a green light for the final round of the Fanatec SRO Esport GT Series here at Barcelona. The drivers are looking for the green flag, which they have received. The green lights are on the gantry. An outstanding start already for Kamil Franček, getting a little bit of a lead from the chasing pack behind. It's Kuba Brzezinski in P2, looking to the outside, closing the door on the Ferrari behind. Everybody's nice and clean into the first braking zone as Brzezinski runs wide and allows Tanitsa potentially passed into P2.
Yeah, Kamil Franček got uncharacteristic little bit of understeer there, which made Brzezinski have to take slight avoiding action, which allowed Tanitsa through, and is now under pressure from Petit and De Salvo behind. De Salvo, in fact, up the inside into turn 4, very tight spacing there. That may even allow Axel Petit through in the Audi as well.
Kuba Brzezinski being left out to dry a little bit, but he's got the inside for the next corner, late on the brakes, trying to keep it as close as he can to the Lamborghini in front, runs the Audi out onto the curb at the outside. There's a spinner in the background. That's one of the two Ferraris I can see facing the wrong direction as Brzezinski survives and retains his 4th position, with Axel Petit close behind in the lone Audi that's running in the race now, as David Greco is currently in P9, just in front of the stranded and crash damaged Amos Larito in 10th.
Yeah, I think Kuba Brzezinski, who finished 3rd in the previous race, really does need to retain 4th place here to have any chance of going through to the retaining the prize, I should say.
Yep, and interestingly, Pavlovsky, the race driver, finished 2nd in the first round, is currently down in P9, so a nightmare start for Pavlovsky in the other AMG Mercedes, as we ride on board with Axel Petit, heading into the end of the first lap, round the final corner, sizing up the Bentley in front. Axel Petit keen to start moving forward a little bit and avoid some of the shenanigans and dropping back that he had in race 1.
Yeah, it's possible that Pavlovsky got caught up in that incident with, we believe it was Amos Larito in the Ferrari that you saw in the background of the shot there, Paul.
Yep, Kamil Pavlovsky already moving himself up to 8th, so starting a recovery drive now. This is going to be a big ask for Kamil Pavlovsky. He needs to really start motoring because he's in a danger of slipping outside of the aggregate, all-important top 3 position that he needs. But meanwhile, at the front of the field, David Tanitsa has closed the gap to 7/10 of a second from Kamil Franček in front, and the gap in De Salvo now. De Salvo in the lead Lamborghini, currently P3, 7/10 away from the front 2 drivers.
And he's not driving away from that Bentley.
No, this is, again, it's looking like we're going to have quite a close fight for the lower reaches of the rostrum and the higher end of the midfield. We've got Franček leading, Tanitsa P2, De Salvo in 3rd in the Lamborghini, Kuba Brzezinski having not the start that he hoped for, dropping 2 off the start line to dropping 3 off the start line to be in P4. Axel Petit 5, as we some contact further down the field. That is the Bentley and the Lamborghini making contact into the chicane, allowing Petit around the outside in the Audi. Does he have enough room? Is he brave enough to stick it out? I'm not sure. And Brzezinski in the heart of the fight once again.
Right, amidst all of that, I think we saw Kuba Brzezinski overtake De Salvo. There was contact there. Axel Petit nearly snuck through. But while that was happening, Aaron Yujovski was given a 30-second penalty for causing a contact with another car, which I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest was Amos Larito. But we got Axel Petit now coming back at Kuba Brzezinski. Here we go, Bentley on the inside. We saw a lot of that in the last race, but boy, has that Audi got a good run, as has the Lamborghini.
Yeah, Brzezinski there getting mugged and dropping himself much further down the order. Also, David Greco has got a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, that was for track limits, Paul.
A track limit one, right? Okay, thank you, Chris. And back into the fight, Brzezinski's going backwards quite quickly. The Bentley now in P5, but lining up the Lamborghini in front, thinking better of it and reassessing where the strengths and weaknesses of the respective cars are, as Greco's drive-through has been removed.
Yeah, I suspect that was he cut the circuit to avoid a contact or something else, and race control have deemed it not advantageous to have cut the track.
That's good news for Greco, because he's actually had a great start, moving himself up to P7. So David Greco from the back of the grid to P7 in the opening couple of laps, taking advantage of some of the slightly excitable behaviour that we've seen further up the field. Meanwhile, Loreto has dropped all the way down to P10 in the Ferrari, so a lot of work to do for Amos Loreto there.
Yeah, Kuba Brzezinski looking like he's got the pace to take this position back from De Salvo. We know how good that Bentley is off of the final chicane into the main overtaking area. Interestingly, I think I'd love to see a replay of the overtaking move, but it looked like a really late last-minute lunge down the inside.
It did, and the roles reversed now for Kuba Brzezinski. If you recall, in race 1, very much on the defensive for the duration of the race, and now the Bentley's got some ground to make up on the cars in front.
Especially as he ran wide out of the chicane. So while I was talking about the excellent drive it has off of that chicane, that only really counts if you're on the circuit itself.
That's a massive advantageous position to be in, but Brzezinski's got a little bit of a gap to De Fourco behind, so he's got a little bit of wiggle room in order to explore the outer limits of what's available to him on the racetrack. Meanwhile, Frenchek has pulled a 1.4 second lead over Tanitsa in the Ferrari, 1.6 now at the latest update. So Kemal Frenchek doing everything he needs to do to secure the outright win.
Yeah, I think the story is Kuba Brzezinski at the moment, as it was for 55 of the 60 minutes of the last race. It does look like he's pushing forward, but not only that, the key thing here is that he's fighting the points battle.
Yep, that's right, because at the moment Pavlovsky, who finished second in race 1, is currently down in 8th position. So Kamil Pavlovsky is in a very dangerous position where he may struggle to amass enough points on in total from the 2 races to go through to P3.
I think actually more than that, Brzezinski needs to really finish ahead of De Salvo because as it stands, De Salvo finished just behind Brzezinski before, so wherever they finish is going to be very, very tight on points. So this is not just an overtake for the race, it's also an overtake for the mini championship, should we say.
It is, and at this moment in time, it looks like Brzezinski has a little bit more pace in the Bentley than the Lamborghini of De Salvo in front.
This is a great camera, Paul.
This is a great camera, and we can see now the straight line speed of the Bentley, the number 7 of Kuba Brzezinski, closing down on the Lamborghini behind, as we see a replay now of the opening lap incident that affected. Oh, there we go. You see.
It was Eroniovsky hitting Kamil Pavlovsky there, so that explains why Pavlovsky dropped down the order and why Yuyovsky's been given a pretty clear-cut penalty.
Yeah, that's a very clear-cut penalty. And we also saw Lorito a little bit further on into the shot, ricocheting off the barriers a little bit further down the road as well. So a significant incident in the opening few moments of this race, compared to a very clean race 1 that we had earlier today. So this is where the pressure cooker really ramps up, and this is where there is absolutely no excuses. Everything needs to be delivered on the table and across the line.
Particularly if you're Giovanni De Salvo.
Yeah, Giovanni De Salvo is the man under absolutely the most pressure at this moment in time. Brzezinski appeared as though he didn't have enough speed in race 1 to be able to go with the cars around him, but for this time round, Brzezinski is really on fire at the moment, all over the back of the Lamborghini in front. But can he do enough to get past?
That is, well, that's the all-important question, isn't it, Paul? As it stands, I think on points, Brzezinski's probably fine because they finished 3rd and 4th in the previous race, and the points gap is less between 4th and 5th. However, if something happens to Frenchek, Tanitsa or Petit in front of them, then Brzezinski needs to get past De Salvo.
Yeah, Brzezinski now is as close as he's all been all race. Coming into the final corner, the Bentley's got a lot of straight line speed, immediately recognised by De Salvo, who goes to the inside to protect the shortest way around the corner, does a Brzezinski and starts drifting back onto the racing line, but the Bentley has got enough of the car alongside to allow himself some space, goes a little bit wider for some extra traction, runs into the side of the Lamborghini, but only minor contact, just a little kiss to let each other know they're there. And we've seen this one before, but in different role reversals. I have a feeling we've got 50 minutes more of this to come, Chris.
The critical thing there, Paul, was that as soon as Brzezinski pulled out of the slipstream, all of his progress stopped. That Bentley has a fairly generous front cross-sectional area, you might say, Paul.
It does, and it's also very good, importantly, quite good on the brakes. So De Salvo and Brzezinski fight rages on. Brzezinski will be hoping he can get that car at least close enough to get up the inside and beat the Lamborghini on the brakes, but that's going to be a brave and determined move from both drivers if that's going to pass off cleanly, as we look at De Fuoco now in the Lamborghini, a driver who's been a little bit more on the quiet side so far this weekend of racing, as we see Brzezinski aggressively going up the inside on one of the most difficult corners on the track. Heavy contact between both cars. Both cars manage to keep it pointed in the right direction, return to the circuit quickly, and the Lamborghini has to get out of things there on the circuit rejoin to avoid a bigger accident. But
I have to
survival.
say from De Salvo there, that was very aggressive defending, pushing her all the way across. You're leaving Brzezinski nowhere to go.
And here we see it again on the replay, so we can see, oh, the replay's back into the race again, I apologise. Kuba Brzezinski now is running in P5, I believe, so recovery starting, but during all that little shenanigans, De Fuoco has managed to move himself up into 4th. And that's a replay of an earlier incident with a tap at the back of the Lamborghini, which we saw a little while earlier.
That was the one we saw in the background of a shot earlier on, Paul, not the overtaking attempt by Brzezinski on the previous lap.
Quick update for those interested in the championship battle. The current top 3 overall podium at the moment, if things stay as they currently stand, is Kamil Franchek, obviously, is the overall race winner. David Tanitsa will be P2 and Kuba Brzezinski in P3. So a very exciting bit of battling still to go. 48 minutes left on the clock. We've seen time and time again anything could happen, and in this particular battle here, anything is likely to happen as well, with De Fuoco currently acting as a stopper in the bottle, much like Brzezinski in the last race.
And De Salvo as little as 1 lap ago.
Yes, so these things are literally changing lap by lap, and De Fuoco at this stage in proceedings hasn't shown the ultimate overall pace that some of the other drivers have managed. So
that's a 15-second penalty for Kuba Brzezinski for causing a collision. I am going to work on the rash presumption that that was for the lap 1 incident or the lap 2 incident, rather than the overtaking attempt on the previous lap, which I think was as much De Salvo's fault as it was Brzezinski's.
yeah, this is painful now for Kuba Brzezinski. This is a 15-second penalty. It's going to cost him dearly in the championship fight. This is going to take a lot of recovery from the Bentley driver. So Brzezinski now needs to really get his head down. Don't get disheartened.
So that was the overtaking attempt. Brzezinski was all the way across to the left, and De Salvo just turned in on him long before the turn-in point for the corner.
Yeah, that was
messy stuff.
That was messy stuff indeed, Chris, and Brzezinski now has got a lot of work in front of him if he wants to recover this position to get into the overall top 3 positions, which of course, as we've already said, is what will qualify the drivers for the Grand Prize with Scuderia. Put my teeth in. The Grand Prize with Lamborghini Squadra Corse. But Brzezinski, 5th at the moment, chasing De Fuoco in the Lamborghini in front. This is the story of the race at the moment, but with 15-second penalties going to drop him right down the field, and must be a difficult time in the cockpit of that car at the moment if you're Kuba Brzezinski.
Yeah, I guess you've just got to keep your head and see what happens. De Salvo's been given a 5-second penalty, which again I presume is for that clumsy defensive move. So this is all going to pan out in a quite interesting way. I wouldn't like to predict how any of this is going to finish, particularly in that tight midfield, which is super important for that all-important final place on the Lamborghini Squadra Corsa prize.
It is, and Brzezinski doesn't appear to have been rattled particularly by his penalty. The car, the Bentley driven by Kuba Brzezinski, looks much more sorted at this stage in the race than the Lamborghini of De Fuoco in front. He's managing to get it car turned into the corner much stronger than the Lamborghini, and now a bit of a run coming out of the final turn. The fabled power of the Bentley coming to the fore. Has he got enough in the slipstream to put himself in an overtaking position? I don't think so at this moment, Chris, do you?
Well, I just put a half a second pause in there, Paul, so I didn't have to make a bold prediction that was clearly going to backfire on me within a second normally. So I think we're at a stage in the race now where things have sort of settled down, but this battle between De Salvo, Brzezinski and De Fuoco, I don't think it's over yet.
No, I don't think it's over. The Bentley does seem to have a lot more speed as De Fuoco gets a little bit out of shape coming through the right-hander, goes to the outside, then decides against it, comes back onto the inside, tries to defend from the Bentley, doesn't leave enough of a gap for the British mark to get through, but Brzezinski's got a bit between his teeth now. He's really looking to try and score this overtaking manoeuvre if he possibly can, but there's plenty of time left on the clock, 45 minutes, so we're only 15 minutes into the race, but Brzezinski, the difficult thing for him is he's got a significant gap up to Petit ahead, who's currently 2.6 seconds away from Tanitsa, who himself is over 3 seconons down on
Kuba Brzezinski trying to get around the outside of turn 10. We haven't really seen that play out. And just to update on the 5-second penalty for De Salvo, that was in fact for the defensive move, as Brzezinski is trying to find any possible way around De Fuoco right now.
Yeah, Brzezinski is absolutely, completely aware of his need to start getting a move on and taking the car further away from his rivals for when the time penalty is applied a little bit later on in the race. And this is the closest we've seen now coming down the start-finish straight. The Lamborghini positions himself in the middle of the circuit so he can decide which way to go for the defensive manoeuvre. Decides against blocking the inside line, which might be a risk as the Bentley puts his nose up the inside a little bit later on the brakes, but not enough to get an overlap, and thinks better of it.
Gets a big bit of snap oversteer on the exit of turn 2 though, but that's going to force Brzezinski around the outside of turn 3, and it's a very, very long way round there.
Yep, the outside of the turn 3 is a very difficult ask in dry conditions, and Brzezinski knows as much as he puts the car back up the outside again actually for turn 4, and this time he's got a much better run, but not quite enough to take the position. Runs wide onto the dirty part of the racetrack and has to drop back once again behind 4th place De Fuoco in the Lamborghini.
Well, don't forget De Fuoco got a beautiful view of the defensive masterclass put on by Brzezinski in the previous race. So.
Yeah, there's one or two tricks I think he's got up his sleeve that he's learnt from race 1 of this Fanatec SRO Esport GT Series finale. And yeah, it must be a little bit frustrating for Kuba Brzezinski at this moment in time. He knows what he needs to do, but he's having his own lessons dished back out to him again.
He's throwing absolutely everything at it at the moment.
Yep, and quick rundown of the running order for those who have been concentrating like us on this wonderful battle for P4. In the lead, Kamil Franchak in the AMG Mercedes, currently lapping at a 1:43.6, so a very quick pace at the front of the field. In P2, David Tanitsa in the Ferrari 488 GT3, Axel Petit in 3rd, and then this fight for 4th, 5th and 6th covered by next to nothing, with De Fuoco leading in the Lamborghini, Brzezinski in 5 and Giovanni De Salvo currently P6.
So here is a replay of the race start. Brzezinski got a decent run on down round the outside, great on the brakes around the outside of Franchak, but then just forced a little wide onto the dirty stuff, which let through David Tanitsa in the Ferrari, and then the Lamborghini of De Salvo.
Yeah, Kuba Brzezinski looking to get a strong start, hoping to repeat what he did in race 1 and become a bit of a blocking action, but that eagerness to get past on the outside into T1 cost him quite dearly, and that's what's put him into the action seats where he is at the moment, and ultimately he's currently mired down in P5 and showing less sign now of being able to make inroads into the Lamborghini in front than he did maybe 5 or 10 minutes ago.
Oh, is that because he's a massive 3/10 behind now, Paul?
Absolutely, that's night and day compared to some of the action we've seen so far. And that's another thing that I'd like you, ladies and gents at home, to have a quick think about at the moment. These guys are pushing the car to the absolute limit of their ability, just mere inches apart, and some of the driving is
as
a
De Fuoco
masterclass.
runs wide, leaving the door open for Brzezinski. He's going to have to go around the outside of the long turn 12. Can't see from this camera angle what's happening. Well, now you can. That was a touch, Paul.
Yep, a little bit of contact between the two cars there as the Bentley remains on the outside for the next section of corners. This will turn onto the inside if he can get enough of a run.
Can't
late
go
enough
up the
on
inside
the
into the chicane.
That is a lot of car in a very small space, and somehow both drivers managed to survive. There's contact into the final corner. That is Brzezinski making contact with De Fuoco's Lamborghini, pushing De Fuoco off onto the gravel, and now Brzezinski's under pressure and vulnerable for an attack from De Salvo behind. That was a clumsy little end to what had turned out to be an aggressive piece of driving from both drivers, ultimately ending in De Fuoco out in the kitty litter and into some disappointment.
They were side by side through turn 12, 13. Slightly clumsy lunge by Brzezinski into turn 14, where it was a small contact. Went through 15, and then the long right-hander onto the back straight, turn 16. Unfortunately, Brzezinski just, well, he ploughed into the side of De Salvo and, of De Fuoco, and
yeah, that was a disappointing end to what could have turned out to be a reasonably interesting drive, and some of that there is Brzezinski's desperation to start moving on up through the field. But what that does mean is it's now moved everybody.
So here we go. This is a replay of that round the outside of turn 12. A little bit of contact there. I think that's sort of normal. A little bit of rubbing is racing. Round the outside of turn 13. That's all good. But it's this late braking manoeuvre that it wasn't too bad actually into the chicane, and then
De Fuoco doesn't know he's there at all, and Brzezinski's trying to put a large car into a small gap in one of the faster corners on the circuit, and sadly, when you're in those sorts of positions, that is kind of an inevitable outcome.
I must say, Paul, from that angle it looked a bit more 50-50. When we saw it on the live cam the first time, it looked very much like Brzezinski was just a long way back, so I'm now far less sure of myself than I was the first time.
I would agree. I would wholeheartedly agree with that one. Quick update for the rest of the field. Amos Lorito has retired due to his lap 1 accident with the Yayovsky, so Lorito out of the race, unfortunately for him, leaving just 9 drivers left in the final 38 minutes as we look at David Teniza, currently running P2 on track and also P2 in the overall virtual podium once scores are combined from both races. Assuming that is, Chris, there's no change between now and then.
That's a rash presumption to make. I don't look forward to Race Control having to provide us with an update on the predicted championship podium standings with 3 penalties to add in. I don't think Yayovsky's really going to 30-second penalty is really going to factor into things, but in that tight scrap between Brzezinski, De Salvo and the like, there's quite a lot to factor in there.
What it does mean, Kamil Pawlowski is now moved up to P7, so had a nightmare start to the race.
That's
really
a net
showing.
P4, Paul.
Yes, which could be
that's
critical.
If it finishes as it stands now, I'm confident that Pawlowski would be in the top 3.
Yep, so it's been a nightmare start to the race for Pawlowski at the moment, dropping all the way down the field, not really closing up as close as I would have expected to him to do, but he's only just under a second away from David Greco, who's also a Thrustmaster driver, so be interesting to see how those two behave with each other out on circuit. And
we
Pawlowski
speculated at the Nürburgring round that there may be a little bit of team orders that could go on between the Thrustmaster drivers, but none of it played out on track, so it'd be interesting to see. There we go, that was a brief bit of replay there, but it did look like Kuba Brzezinski came from quite a long way back, and it was just a small touch on the rear quarter of the Lamborghini there.
Yeah, so here we see it again into the tightest chicane on the circuit. The two cars managed to negotiate their way through there, and Brzezinski very clearly sees an opportunity to look at the inside of the final turn, but then quickly runs out of space as De Fuoco closes that door on him, and both cars make contact. De Fuoco coming off very much the worst of the two drivers. And
should we wildly speculate that there may be another penalty incoming for Brzezinski?
I make no speculation on these things because every time I see it, I come away with a different opinion on the matter. But what we can tell you is Brzezinski has survived and does remain currently P4 on track with a 15-second penalty to be applied to his time at the end of the race. Not a problem. This affected our top 3 drivers as Frenchek, Teniza and Petit continue a very solid performance in the AMG Mercedes, Ferrari 488 and Audi respectively.
Well, if anything, it's made their job a lot easier in the top 3 because the battling Brzezinski, De Salvo and De Fuoco, as it was at the time, let those 3 just drive off into the distance.
Yeah, they've now put a significant gap from Kuba Brzezinski in 4th, currently 6.6 seconds away from the back of that top 3 battle, as we're riding on board now with Pawlowski, who scared the Audi out of the way. That's Greco, his teammate, so Pawlowski moving up 1 into 6th position, which is was not a surprise, as obviously Pawlowski very much needs to start making ground in order for that top 3. Greco now playing rear gunner to the AMG Mercedes in his Audi, holding off Yayovsky, I believe it is, behind in another AMG.
Yeah, Pawlowski probably wasn't overly keen on seeing Yayovski behind him after the lap 1 incident.
Oh, that's a very fair point, actually, and this has got to be... I mean, Chris, think about it. You're Pawlowski. You're trying to do mental arithmetic while whilst fighting, whilst defending against the cars behind. It must be nerve-wracking for the young driver to try and get his head round whether he's in a good or a bad position overall in the race.
Well, this is the thing. If he can see what we can see, and I suspect he can't, then he may or may not know that the drivers... I'm going for a real Murrayism
You
there.
are, aren't you? Really?
He may or may not know any of the information that we know, but if he does know it, then he might do well with it.
And if he doesn't know a thing about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's true. But Pawlowski, the best thing he can do, as with every driver in this
And
field.
there's the penalty. 15 seconds for car number 7, Kuba Brzezinski, for causing a collision.
Okay, so that's really hurting Brzezinski's
As
overall
Yayovski gets
chances
past
now.
David Greco there on the outside of turn 8.
Good overtake there.
Sorry,
from,
on the
Yayovski.
run down into turn 8.
Good overtake there from Yayovski in the AMG Mercedes, and Brzezinski now carrying a significant amount of penalties, which will net move Pawlowski up, as you already said, Chris, and De Salvo as well, move up into a net 4th position, which I will hazard a guess should be enough for him to see himself in the final.
Yeah, Pawlowski within that 5 seconds of De Salvo for his penalty serving as well. So at the moment, Pawlowski is that net 4th.
Quick word for David Teniza that you're seeing on your screen now in the Ferrari, showing a lot more pace than we saw in race 1. David Teniza.
Yeah, where
really
was
performing well.
David Teniza in race 1? He was caught up in a few battles, and as we've heard from James Parker, the Ferrari, once it gets into traffic, is a bit of a problem.
Yep, and he's not in traffic at the moment. Got quite the gap in front and behind. So Teniza doing what he needs to do in order to secure himself a podium. I think Frenchek at the moment has got the legs on that Ferrari. 4.7 to the good as we're getting closer to the halfway point in this race. So a bit of a lonely race for Teniza, and quite a dangerous position to be in, because Petit's not that far away.
Yeah, and props to Axel Petit. We said during the first race that we suspected he had more pace in the car than he was able to unlock due to incidents and not quite being able to ever get out of the traffic, and that's proven to be pretty much the case here. He's done a great job, solid job in 3rd. Every time we go on board that car, it really does look like he's trying to unknot his shoelaces, just working the wheel so incredibly hard.
And we're dropping now to Erhan Yayovski, a driver we spoke about earlier on, having just cleared David Greco, and off in hearty pursuit of Greco's Thrustmaster Esport racing teammate, Kamil Pawlowski.
He's not given up that fight, has he, Paul?
He's not. It actually seems like Yayovski has quite a bit of pace in the car, but of course we need to remember he's carrying another time penalty. 1 of 3 drivers currently carrying a time penalty. So although the fight on track is intense, in reality Yayovski is somewhat removed from this incident.
I think another key point to make here is that Yayovski hit Pawlowski hard in the diffuser. The chances are that Pawlowski's carrying some pretty significant damage, and looking at his lap times, he's a solid 2nd a lap slower than his teammate in the identical car. And in the last race, it was rarely more than a couple of tenths between the 2 of them. So I suspect that Pawlowski is carrying damage.
You make a really good point actually there, Chris. And on the topic of Pawlowski, he's currently 4.2 seconds away on the track from Giovanni De Salvo ahead in the Lamborghini. So just within range to take benefit from that 5-second penalty that De Salvo currently has hanging over his head. So Pawlowski doesn't need to hang about, otherwise he's in danger of not taking benefit from the De Salvo penalty when it's served at the end of the event.
And we do have an updated final position calculation from race control. Obviously Kamil Frenchek winning both races, having won the first race and leading this one, net position 1st. Pawlowski having come 2nd in the first race and now in a net God knows where, 2nd, and David Teniza, who had a midfield finish in the first race and is currently in 2nd place in this race, bringing up 3rd place.
Yep, so things are changing minute by minute on this one, and Pavlovski's now 4.4 seconds away from De Salvo in front, so only just over half a second's worth of advantage left, as we've seen a replay now riding on board with one of the Lamborghinis, looking at the Bentley in front, trying and failing at the start of the race. I think this is.
Yes, this was the lap 1, turn 1, as Kamil Franček just forced the Bentley of Kuba Brzezinski onto the dirty line. You'll see the Lamborghini take much later braking into turn 4 there, or perhaps you won't.
Some nice driving though from all the drivers to run as close together as they have done there without making contact. But again, going back to Pavlovski now, currently in P6, the gap is ever so slightly increasing between De Salvo and Pavlovski. So again, Kamil needs to really start getting his foot down, as all the trucks in the world are pipping outside, because we're in the paddock at Barcelona and everybody's clearing off for the day. So apologies if you hear a bit of beeping going on in the background. It's not censoring anybody's foul language, it is race teams leaving the track for the day.
And letting everyone know it.
A paddock in nighttime conditions is a wonderful place to be, but can occasionally get a little bit bonkers. Right, rundown of your running order minus penalties at the moment. Kamil Franček currently leads after 17 laps, 5.3 seconds good to David Tanitsa in the Ferrari in second. A further 2.1 behind is Axel Petit in the Audi, with Kuba Brzezinski in 4th position, but with a 30-second penalty to add to his time at the end of the race. Giovanni De Salvo is running 5th, also carried a penalty of 5 seconds, and 4.8 seconds behind him is Kamil Pavlovski in the AMG Mercedes in 6th. David Greco is in 7th place in the Audi, as we look at another quick replay of the Bentley going around the outside.
That was that turn 4 overtake that I was just talking about, where we got cut a little bit short, as the Lamborghini of De Fuoco managed to get up the inside.
So very tense moments for the drivers in the opening few yards of the race, but things are settled down now. We're into the second half of the event. Axel Petit there, slowly but surely actually, closing the gap to Tanitsa's Ferrari in front, so there may be a bit of something in it towards the end of the event here as well.
Just a tenth or two here or there. This we saw Petit having just really great pace throughout the race in the previous race, so yeah, starting to come alive.
Interesting for Tanitsa as well, because he's currently in 3rd position in the combined scores, so David Tanitsa really needs to keep this position in order to give himself a good chance of staying on the overall podium position.
That's
so,
a very good point, Paul. Yeah, that's
times.
a very good point. And also worthy of note is Pavlovski's now dropped outside of that 5-second penalty window behind De Salvo. His lap time's still a strong second a lap shy of Kamil Franček, his teammate in the identical car.
Yep, so Kamil Pavlovski's last lap was a 44.622, which is 0.6 down on his ultimate fastest lap. But as you say, Chris, it's a full second down from Kamil Franček's ultimate pace as well. And sorry, not ultimate pace, last lap pace. Pavlovski really needs to start getting his skates on a little bit. If
I think that's all the pace the car's got, Paul. I'm pretty convinced he's carrying damage. Speaking of carrying damage, Aaron Yuyovski's in the pits, has been there for quite a while, and I suspect has retired from the race.
Yep, so that now leaves 7 cars in the field and in one state of repair or another as we head into the last 26 minutes or so of this final round of the Fanatec SRO eSport GT Series. Quick word to the viewers out there watching today. Thank you all for tuning in today and also through the course of the season. We've had an absolute ball entertaining you, hopefully, with some sensible and some not so sensible comments over the course of the year. Please do continue watching to the end of this. We've got a hopefully quite a fierce race still to finish off in the final 26 minutes and an eventual champion to crown.
Yeah, but he's just taken another couple of tenths out of Tanitsa, so that battle is starting to hot up. Possibly going to take a few laps for that to really come onto the boil, but It's building, Paul. It's building.
Pavlovsky seems to have found a little bit of pace now, so he's closed the gap down to De Salvo by a couple of tenths of a second, now just 7 thousandths away from where he needs to be in order to benefit from the time penalty for De Salvo.
Yeah, there was actually a slightly better lap from Pavlovsky, only 8 tenths off of his teammate's time. I still think that car is proving problematic after the big hit it took in the diffuser on lap 1.
Yep, so in-game time now in the race is 7:03 p.m. The sun is starting to become lower in the sky. The track will no doubt be giving up a little bit less grip than it did earlier in the race, and this may have an interesting dynamic on the way the cars are behaving.
Let's just watch the way Axel Petit hustles this car through the corners, constantly working the wheel. I think he's working harder than any other driver on the circuit. In fact, that was the calmest I've seen him through turn 16. There was only 7 or 8 corrections.
Yep, this is Axel Petit, who once again has given the lie to my statement from race 1, the Audi the calm car to drive, which is not at all frustrating. And Petit remains in P3 at this moment in time. And as you say, Chris, is ebbing and flowing the gap between himself and the Ferrari of Tanitsa in front.
Yeah, he has just dropped off a couple of tenths there. So one lap doesn't indicate a trend, so I'm not going to suggest that it does as he pulls back another tenth. I still think there's more to develop from this battle, Paul.
And this guy that we're watching on screen now, Kamil Franček, has been peerless all weekend, continuing to cruise at the front, looking very in control of himself, the car and the circumstances. Kamil Franček doing an outstanding job in the AMG Mercedes-Benz, currently 6.1 in the lead of Petit in PT.
So this is another replay from lap 1 as we see one of the Lamborghinis around the outside of turn 4. Is this going to be, yeah, watching Yayovsky hitting Pavlovsky there, as you said, squaring the diffuser. And he catches Amos Lorito, and that's what saw Lorito retire.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate for Lorito. Really big hit he ended up taking into the outside barriers, which, as you say, put the car into retirement and a sad end to what's been a reasonably entertaining weekend for Amos Lorito in the Ferrari eSport Driver Academy team. But this is a guy that just doesn't get involved in these sorts, for instance, does he? Franček puts it on pole, runs away at the front, and keeps himself well and truly out of harm's way.
Well, if we're going to get into a gushing about Kamil Franček session, and I think we probably are, it's probably worth pointing out that he won his qualifying race in Monza. He won his final in Monza. He went to the Nürburgring and he dominated his qualifying race there. He came second in the final at Nürburgring to his teammate.
Yeah, a fantastic driver, and so far is showing all those signs of quality again here today. But we're watching Kuba Brzezinski now in the Bentley that's not got anybody around him, which is pretty much the first time we've seen that all day, really. So Brzezinski, a very solid performance, been in the wars a little bit here and there, but so far so good. And I sense weirdness coming.
Yeah, you can feel it approaching you, can't you?
In the air.
The professionalism of the Kunos staff. Are we gonna interview you, Davide?
We're gonna have words.
I know you like to be on.
You've come, you're gonna say
I know you like to be on the
for
microphone.
us.
Hi guys, all good?
Yeah,
all good.
Yeah. Thank you for sneaking up on us mid-race. That was
Surprise.
Slightly terrifying, if I'm quite honest. Davide, just quickly, for the people that may or may not recognise you at home, who are you and what are you doing here?
Yeah, I'm doing marketing, business development stuff, and esports. At
for Kunos.
Yeah.
Who make ACC?
Yeah, really.
Yep.
That's why the hashtag is BACC. Right?
Ah, right. Okay.
Are you enjoying the final round festivities?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, in the race direction, we expected some more, difficulties and struggles since drivers are very tired. Today, just to recap, they had something like 2 hours practice in the morning and then 2 in the afternoon, setting up the seams, etc., and then all the race today. So it was pretty hard for them to go on the track again for 1 hour fighting, and in fact we are seeing some Perfect. And then it's the second race with more weight than the first one. So yeah, I think they're going for the maximum point they can, but still pretty exciting.
At the moment, we've got obviously two racers that we're doing. The combined points make the overall race winner. Who's your money on for the final place on the podium? Because at the moment we've got Tanitsa is currently in P3 with Pavlovsky in P2.
Yeah, the last update we did on our simulation is that Franzak is currently in first position.
That was the tough bit.
Yeah, we could do the mental math on that one quite easily.
And now we have Pavlovsky in second position because, forecasting these two penalties of 30 seconds and 5 seconds, that is going to happen. And the third guy is at the moment is Tonitsa.
So the forecasting that you've done, does that take into account now that Pavlovsky has dropped away from the 5-second window to move past the salvo?
No, I have to update it because it was pretty tight. So if the viewers at home are a little bit less tired than us, you can try to apply the standard points. So the first one will get 25 points, the second one 18, and then 15, 12, 11.
Yeah, so anybody who's good at fast mental maths, leave a comment in the comment section of the video or drop us a tweet, #BACC.
And we can't read the chat on the stream, so that will be no help to us at all, Paul.
But it's engagement.
Oh, yeah.
Folks, help us out. Tell Davide, because he's too busy waving iPads at us than doing the maths.
Yeah. So I'm going back in the rest direction with the other Kunos guys. And again, congrats for the commentary. Just keep it up.
20 minutes to go.
Left.
20 minutes. 19 minutes and
Bye,
37 seconds.
Disappearing.
So yeah, that was Davide Brivio from Kunos, come to say hello and stuff. And that
his
leads
P45 will be in the post before the end of the day, I'm sure.
We've got very much an end of season mood going on now here. It's the last race, as we said before, last race of the championship. We've done, this is the fifth racetrack that we've been to. We're at Barcelona, which is not something we've really talked about much. We're at a beautiful Spanish racetrack in the dead of night now, but it's been a beautiful day, and it's so far the action's not quite been as spicy in this race as it was in race 1, but still some subplots to be drawn through.
Yeah, the Petit Tanitsa fight is still important, I think, particularly from Tanitsa's perspective for qualifying for the prize positions, and of course how Pavlovsky and De Salvo's final finishing positions with that penalty are going to play out. So there's still a few little things to tighten up here, but I think it's fair to say that this race doesn't quite have the same sheen that the first one did.
It doesn't, and as Davide quite rightly pointed out, drivers have spent a lot of time in the rigs so far this weekend, today should I say, had a very intense and pressured race not an hour or so ago. The tiredness and the concentration levels of the drivers is really starting to struggle now, I think, out on the circuit, and you can see that with the penalties. And I don't know about you, Chris, but my tiredness, I'm starting to struggle, never mind the people out there doing the business.
I don't think that was helped by our flight being delayed by many hours thanks to the British weather yesterday, Paul.
No, that's very true. That is very true. It was, yes, not much sleep, folks, so we do apologise. But back to the track action, and interestingly, Pavlovsky has now dropped 6.6 seconds away from De Salvo, so he's well outside of that 5-second window for the penalty to take effect. This is going to have potentially sizable repercussions in the overall finishing order of the race and the series.
Very much so. We were just looking at David Greco there, who driving around in 7th. I think it's fair to say in the races we've seen him in this series, not really made the impact, but that perhaps you thought he would for a fairly well-known esports driver.
Yep, Greco been around on the scene now for quite a while, made a bit of a name for himself as we ride on board Greco in his Audi. Interestingly, Greco has dropped away quite a bit from the fight before he potentially let his teammate past Pavlovsky. Must have been 4 or 5 laps ago.
It looked a little bit like a mistake, but also he didn't fight it particularly hard. So,
and he's very quickly fallen away from the back of that train. So Greco not being able to find and access the lap times he needs at this moment in time to move himself further up the field. But one chap who is Axel Petit in P3, continuing to pile, albeit little by little, the pressure onto Tanitsa in the Ferrari in second place.
Yeah, we've had a message from race control to suggest that David Tinitza can actually drop down to third and will still qualify for that prize position. So whether he knows that or not is another matter. With everything I know currently, I'd let Petit past if he came and made a move, but I don't think I'd be confident enough to say that I'd be able to work that out while driving a GT3 car in a racing sim.
No, I mean, I'm struggling to work it out while sat here watching people drive GT3 cars in a racing sim, so it'll be a big challenge for David Tinitza to do those arithmetic in his head while out on track. And at the moment, Chris, he's got a 1.6 second gap. It's coming down, but they're only chipping away at it 10th by 10th. It's not coming down in significant numbers. So Tinitza's got 15.5 minutes or so to maintain that level of gap depreciation. So I think he's probably feeling reasonably confident. Sent very confident when we spoke to him in between the races. So that's a man who's not particularly worried about where he's at in the event at this moment in time.
Yeah, we've not seen a lot of Giovanni De Salvo in the last 20 minutes or so. He was heavily involved in the action with Brzezinski and De Fuoco earlier on. Seems to be plodding around at a reasonably consistent pace. Certainly doesn't look like he's going to be hauling in the gap to Brzezinski, though.
No, I think De Salvo knows now that he's got what he needs to do. Brzezinski in front's got a penalty, which you will be aware of, the penalty for the other driver. So De Salvo knows that he's too far behind now, Petit in third. So there's not a lot he can do about that driver, and Brzezinski's already kind of taken care of himself.
Look at that, we very much hit golden hour in Assetto Corsa Competizione as the get the God rays breaking through there, looking absolutely stunning.
Yeah, the game looks spectacular in these conditions. We see a lovely slow-mo.
I think it looked good enough that we're getting a slow-mo replay.
Yeah,
just like they do in the Formula One when the action goes off the boil. We're getting beautiful slow-motion replays.
Also in Formula One, they point the camera at the crowd when things are happening on track, but luckily we've managed to avoid that one during this race.
Shall we not steer directly into that hornet's nest of a discussion, Paul?
Let's not indeed, as we look again at the man that's really under the most pressure was Pavlovsky, but we're back to Tinitza. And what sort of lap times is David Tinitza doing? A 43.6 last time out, so only a 10th away from his ultimate quickest.
Yeah, but a 43.5 for Axel Petit though, and that's the headline here.
Yep, it's only chipping away a tenth or two per lap, and both drivers really need to maintain absolutely no mistakes in these final 13 minutes of the race. Otherwise, the race is wide open again between the two. So, although not close nose to tail on track, it is 100% pressure on both drivers at this stage.
Yeah, and we're getting to a stage now where the sun is beginning to set. You could argue that the sunlight in the eyes can be problematic, but I've never really seen a driver particularly affected by that. What they might be affected by is the fact that 90% of the track now is in shade and track temperatures will start to drop.
Yeah, so in-game time, 7:28 p.m. As you say, the track temperatures will be beginning to drop. The tyre pressures in the cars will be changing as the stint unfolds. The car's obviously getting lighter as it burns fuel. It's getting a little bit less grippy as the tyres start to see some wear, and it's always an interesting time for me when there's less of the on-track battling to see how drivers respond and behave in these changing conditions of the car.
Yeah, Petit took another 0.2 of a second out of Tinitza on that lap. This has turned from a battle that was sort of ebbing and flowing into a real charge from Petit now.
Yep, Axel Petit got the bit between the teeth, is getting towards that point in time now where Tinitza's going to seem looming large in his mirrors, and it'll be interesting to see if Petit can maintain this pace now for the next few laps and get to within a position we can look at overtaking the Ferrari in front. I don't recall, Chris, having seen these two brands racing each other particularly closely on track, other than obviously the role reversal from the previous race. So
yeah, we haven't seen a lot of the Audi at all this year. We're starting to appear towards the Nürburgring round. I think we saw one in Spa briefly before it became a bit more Bentley oriented as the weekend drew on. So well, the Ferrari has been quite popular, but it's never really been at the sharp end.
No,
other than in the wet, actually, at Nürburgring.
Yes, that's a very good point, actually. The Ferrari was a strong contender in wet conditions, but here we've got reduced grip, certainly, and getting reduced visibility, but the track is bone dry, and Out of the two cars, at this moment in time, it looks like momentum is still with Axel Petit as he crosses the line to knock it down to a 1.1 second gap. And Petit,
another 2/10 that lap, yeah.
Yeah, Petit again, absolutely lap in, lap out within 1 or 2 tenths of a second of his ultimate pace. So that's a driver very much pushing to the limits of himself and his car, which is impressive to see. It's always good to see a driver at the edge of what he's capable of producing on any given
Well,
day.
anytime we've gone on board with Axel Petit, it just, the amount of hand movement going on, I don't think I've ever seen a driver balancing a car quite to that extent. As we see one of the Ferraris coming out of the pits, I'm guessing that's Amos Lorito. Yeah, Amos Lorito now back on track after sitting out for the last 9 laps. Not really sure what that's about.
Yep, Lorito looking for one final hurrah out on the circuit as the championship comes to an end. Last opportunity to represent the Ferrari brand here at the SRO Esport GT Series at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. And the final 10 minutes of the final race of the first season of the SRO Esport GT Series. So
for the first time now, Axel Petit under a second behind David Tanitsa. No DRS here, so he's still going to have to do it the hard way to get in haul in the rest of the gap, and at sort of a couple of tenths of a second a lap, it does look like he may get there with a couple of laps to spare.
It does. Petit visually looks closer to the back of the Ferrari now than it has done at any stage. The momentum's very much in Petit's favour in the Audi, closing back down for a completion of another lap with 9 minutes and 45 seconds on the clock. Axel Petit has just set a lap time, his fastest lap time of the day, a 1:43.452 versus the 1:43.857 of Tanitsa in front. So
yeah, the pace differential between those two cars is accelerating for a long time. I mean, this has been a long burning battle, Paul, but for maybe the last 15 laps we've been looking at this, and for much of that they were trading lap times, but over the last 5 laps or so, Tanitsa's pace has dropped off relative to Petit's quite significantly.
Yep, the circuit's really coming to the Audi of Petit now, and we've just been informed, which is a good point, that Lorito has repaired his car after the accident and is now heading out on the circuit in a bid to score the fastest lap and take home the Pirelli Tyre Trophy prize if he can. So Lorito, with nothing left on the line to gain, is going out there and looking for the ultimate fastest lap time of the race. So we'll keep our eye on that one and keep you up to date. Currently the quickest lap held by any of the drivers on the track is that of, I'm just having a quick look through the timing, Kamil Franček, as you would expect from his position on track, 1:43.251. So
yeah.
Franček currently fastest lap holder with 8 minutes and 25
But
to go.
Lorito's been in the pits, he can change the setup, he can take the fuel out of the car, fresh tyres. I think put in a qualifying lap and you've done it. The qualifying laps are down in the 1:42s, so I think I'd be disappointed if it was Amos Lorito and didn't come away with the fastest lap in that sort of situation.
Yep, we all know Lorito's a very handy driver behind the wheel. He's shown that already many times that we've seen him so far this season. And now the fight between Petit and Lorito's teammate, David Tanitsa, is close to half a second. So now, Chris, Petit's going to start enjoying the benefits of a slipstream from the Ferrari in front, which will draw him yet closer still as he's very late on the brakes.
Look how much better the Audi is getting into the corner. It's certainly one of the characteristics of the car, but at this stage of the race, just Petit was finding it so much easier just to get the nose turned in. And again, you see just coming into turn 4, nose just behaving slightly better, while the Ferrari doesn't look particularly understeery, but that Audi just looks very sharp.
Yeah, that was scary actually, the closing speed of those two cars on that camera shot. Really tight between the two now, and Axel Petit is doing everything in his power to let Tanitsa in front know that he's behind and he's lining up an overtake. And this is good for us. This spices up the final 7 minutes or so of the race as these two drivers, and as you say, a fight that's been building for some time now, comes to a head in the dying moments of the final round of the season.
Yeah, it's been a slow burn, but it's a story that's developed and thankfully is actually looks like it might give us an ending.
It does, and just a quick update on Amos Lorito. First lap out of the pits on new tyres, low fuel, a 1:43.4 1.239.
Only just fastest lap, but it is the fastest lap.
Yep, so current fastest lap holder. I doubt that Franchek will be looking to lay down some fast laps.
So here we are. Axel Petit comes off of the last turn, deep in the slipstream there with the Ferrari. This is the first time we've been able to compare their relative pace. Looks like Tanitsa's gone defensive reasonably early, as we've seen through, well, most of these battles. Petit, round the outside, thinks better of it this time around.
Yep, looking to try and get a cutback, but Tanitsa is wise to that one and blocks the way with his Ferrari. So Petit running out of real estate in which he can use to place that Audi alongside and into a braking position, although Tanitsa runs wide onto the AstroTurf outside of the corner, leaves the inside open, continues to leave it open, giving racing room to the Audi behind. Will it be enough? The door is open. Can Petit walk through it, or will he run out of space before the left-hander goes to the outside, closes? Dangerous, scary driving, but good, clean, precision driving from both drivers.
Yeah, a little bit of traded paint there, but nothing that I'd be too concerned about. Trying to go around the outside of turn 5, it's pretty optimistic, and it almost looked like they touched there under braking for turn 7 as well, Paul.
And Axel Petit's in a position now where he knows that he can brake much more effectively than the Ferrari in front, so he's got to be a little bit careful not to get caught and checked up behind and make unnecessary contact, but I'm sure he's well aware of that one as they hit the heavy braking zone into the difficult left-hander that I've referred to a few times, running up the hill. The Audi's got absolutely everything that the Ferrari cannot produce at this moment in time, and I think this is very much a case of lining him up for a run down the start-finish straight at this stage.
Yeah, he had a good run last lap. He's just as close this time around, so as long as he can get on the power sensibly, doesn't trade away too much to wheel spin. Does actually look a tiny bit further behind, but
yeah, I think Axel Petit got a little bit too aggressive over the sausage curbs there, which lost him a little bit of momentum. The wheels were in the air rather than biting into the tarmac and propelling the car through the corner, and that's cost him a shot into T1. But if Petit's so strong on the brakes compared to the Ferrari, and almost finds himself meeting the Turn 1 grandstand fans for the day, that was as close as it's going to get. And Chris, has that broken the challenge now with 4 minutes to go?
With 4 minutes to go, I think he's going to drop a couple of seconds behind. It's going to be difficult to pull that back. I apologise to the viewers for my quite loud oof.
It was an oof moment, to be fair.
It was.
It was arguably as close as you're going to get without having an accident, so that was tense in the final minutes. But
yeah, I think Petit just braked a tiny bit later than he thought was wise, but what really harmed him was having to turn to avoid Tanitsa, which turned it into, rather than being a small amount of lock brake and understeer, into a massive, massive moment.
Now Petit's got a lot of work ahead of him if he's going to make up for that mistake and close the gap in the final, 3 minutes and 25 seconds of the race. He has got the pace to make that gap disappear between the two cars. And actually, he's closing faster than I expected him to do when the incident first happened. So it might not all be over yet in this fight for what is P2 on the circuit.
Definitely taking the glass half full approach to that, Paul. I'm
going for every scrap of potential excitement left in the race I possibly can as we head into the final 3 minutes of the season. And Kamil Franchek walking away with things at the front of the field, currently untouched all race, leading from pole position. David Tanitsa currently in P2, fending off the advances of Axel Petit. Brzezinski in 4th with a penalty to serve at the end of the race. De Salvo having done just enough to maintain his position from Plavoski in 6th when the 5-second penalty has been issued. Greco 7th and Amos Lorito charging around looking for lap times, currently in P8 and with a 1 minute 42.876, so fastest lap by
that's a much better hot lap time. I'm guessing he just filled up for a short stint, so he got a few runs at it, and now the fuel's burning off. He's setting nice fast lap times out there, and as you say, quite handily taking the Pirelli tyre fastest lap trophy,
which is a rather beautiful Pirelli fastest lap trophy. So no surprise there, Lorito's got his sights set on that one with nothing else really to gain in terms of overall race position or of course the
on board with Axel Petit here once again, seeing just how much he's hustling the Audi through the corners. Clearly hasn't given up on this yet, Paul.
Yeah, Axel Petit's got a 1.2 second deficit to make up in what will probably be a 1 minute 30 seconds left of racing. So Petit's got to really make the most of those good breaks into T1, but without collecting the back of the Ferrari this time, if he's going to have one final absolutely all or nothing attempt on the last lap of the race. And yeah, it's 50-50 whether he's going to make it or not, Chris. I'll have to see how that one goes.
Yeah, we are only going to get one more lap as the Kamil Franček enters his last lap with less than a minute and 30 or so to go. So this will be the final lap of the race.
Final lap of the season as well. So
Stop saying that. It's so negative.
It's just drawing our attention.
If we keep pretending that it's going to go on, then it will never end, Paul.
It is. And so this being a great display once again from Kamil Franček. He had a lot of confidence before heading into this second race. We spoke to him on camera and off, and he felt a man confident in his own ability and the setup of his car and the work that he's put in place.
And that's the key point, Paul. It's the amount of preparation that Kamil has done for this series right from the word go. He's been a consummate professional, and it's paid off. It's absolutely paid dividends throughout. Every time he's hit the track here, he has been, it has to be said, a cut above everyone else.
Yep, he's a driver absolutely hungry for success, knows what the prize is, knows what he wants to do and how he's willing to go out there and grab that opportunity, and he's done so with both hands, showing himself to be fast, consistent, sensible and humble at the same time. A really strong performance. I mean, it's not over yet, there's still a few more corners to go, but at the same time, Kamil Franček doing what we've seen him do all season long, and that's absolutely dominate the field.
Yeah, there's nothing negative you can say about Kamil's performance at any point. It's barely like he's left a tenth of a second on the table at any point as he rounds the final corner and cruises up to the line, weaves a little bit, why not? He has won both races today. He is definitely going to be claiming that Lamborghini driving evaluation prize with Squadra Corsa. And I think justifiably happy with his performance, Paul.
Yep, fantastic drive from Kamil Franček, the 2009 Fanatec SRO eSport GT Series champion. Wonderful performance, wonderful ambassador for eSport racing. David Tanitsa rounds out in P2. Axel Petit in the third and final spot on the podium. Brzezinski relegated down to P5 after his altercations and excitement during the course of the race. DeSalvo fourth, Pavlovsky in sixth, Greco P7, and Amos Larito with the fastest lap award of the race in P8 in the second Ferrari 488.
Yeah.
Chris.
And now those penalties have been applied. That's dropped Brzezinski down to seventh, as we sort of predicted. Promotes Greco and Pavlovsky, as we highlighted earlier.
Yeah,
we are gonna give the prizes for the fastest lap to the guys here. It's been a long day, so please, Amos, come here. Yeah, pink one for the second race. So yeah, congrats. Basically, it didn't went so well during the race, so you decided to bet it all with the fastest lap.
Thank you. I was really unlucky. Really unlucky. I'm happy, but I'm not happy for sure. But it happens. Okay. Now I'm more happy. Okay. Thank you.
Your strategy to bring it back with the plane?
Never give up. Never give up, because I was last 9 laps to the leader. I saw 2 guys in the box. And then I thought maybe I can overtake them, and I can do also a good lap. And I think that I finished it in P8 in the world, this first event. And then for the second time I have this tire.
Yeah, sure. Congrats, mate. I think now you're much happier than before. Okay. And yes, you have to give us something later on, because you're taking the best. Okay. This is pieces by pieces. We can do tires, and we can also fix things. So we can do it.
Great. So another epic comeback from David Tonizza, always from Ferrari Esports Academy. Yeah, come here. Yeah, the first race was a bit difficult for David, and then a comeback. We saw an impressive pace with the Ferrari. You went for the Group B car because obviously you are part of a big team, and you pulled it to the end with a wonderful race. So how was it?
I wasn't thinking about second place here because obviously I was training for another big competition. But yeah, the race was very, very hard and very tough, especially in the end with the tires. I was struggling a lot, but I managed to keep up the pace and finish second. So I'm really happy.
Great. So my curiosity is from a guy of our development team, the guy that is doing all the handling and physics of these cars. What is, the thing that impressed you the most from drivers like David that you saw during this weekend?
Well, seeing them live is completely different than when you see them on a replay or something like that. And it is amazing how they keep, pushing the car and finding every little that they had, especially at the last part of the race. I saw that you were in trouble, and the pressure you had behind from Petit was incredible. So please let me know, how was it when you saw him going, long on the T1 and almost, getting you from behind? What did you felt at that point?
I was just thinking, please stay away from me. Please.
No, congrats again. So well done, and hope to see you again in another one of our events. Okay. Thanks. Congrats.
Now, I'm calling here Kamil Pawlowski. So yeah, you can prepare here. And meanwhile, what does it mean for Fanatec R&D team and all the marketing guys, etc., to see that you are developing products that at the end are getting into the hands of these fantastic drivers all around the world?
Yeah, it's absolutely massive as a company. We work closely with most drivers, with you guys, of course. So it's a great honor to be here and to keep doing that. And I think we're just at the beginning. Great.
So, Kamil, an epic race at the Nürburgring, and then you are here defending yourself. The first race was a bit easier. Feelings?
I still can't believe it. Really, I mean, I was so upset when I got rear-ended. My car was damaged, but I'm so freaking lucky, really, because I couldn't do anything with this straight car, and yeah, thanks to my second position in the first race, and yeah, and the unluckiness of other guys because of the penalties, I am just on this podium position thanks to I don't know. It's just luck. I think it's just luck this time.
If I may, I think that's not something that has to do with luck. You guys, I saw all your races. You were really very, very well prepared, very professional. Doing everything as properly as you could. And we had the second race that it was a little bit more heat up. The guys were tired, but what I really like that at the end of the race, everybody goes up from the rigs and everybody was happy and commenting and asking, forgiveness for their mistakes and everything. Everybody was really fair, and that was nice. And I'm glad that you managed to, get the position that actually you deserved. So everything is great.
If I can spend a word for Kamil, thanks for coming to this competition really as a ray of sunshine, because you arrived with all your really, you were calm, you were having fun with the other guys, and you have been one of the guys that helped to create a community inside this community of pro racers. Let's not forget that these guys today in a qualifying were fighting in 2/10 for the first 10 positions. So it's something really crazy, something that we see just in professional areas, and having also this kind of easy attitude, fun, and community feeling was simply great. So thank you, congrats, and see you in Italy where the selection will go on. Yeah, so just to remember, the first 3 guys of the SRO Sport GT Series will go to Lamborghini for a visit to pay a visit to the Lamborghini Museum and production plant in Sant'Agata Bolognese. In the same day, they will move to drive road cars, Huracans, on Imola's track, and then they will have 2 weeks later another session with well, actually the winner of this first selection.
All of this is actually training. It's not like they would, you know, bring the Huracans for a lap on Imola and that's it. They were going to be followed by the Lamborghini instructors. They will see their development, the evolution, and then they will judge and get the best driver for GT3 Evo laps at Adria, if I'm not right. Okay, so yeah.
So it's going to be massive. Obviously, try to follow our channels because every step of this selection follow-up will be streamed and obviously published on our social media. So now let us spend some words for Kamil Franzak, that was a massive participant into this competition literally from day one. He came to Monza, Veni Vidi Vici with the Jaguar, and he came to the Nürburgring also because he wanted to keep up the pace for the competition. He needed some adrenaline for that, and you came here and there was literally no story. Man, what a race!
Yeah, actually, I did not expect it's gonna be like that, but it's still better to be to have a boring race and just do a lap times and finish in a P1 than fight with the guys and thinking about crashing the car and so on. So, yeah, that was amazing. I'm still impressed I did it, but yeah, I was preparing quite a lot, so I think it was worth it.
How many time do you actually spend on Assetto Corsa Competizione to be that fast? Not fast, that fast.
Well, I think my total time is on the Steam is more than 150 hours, 150. But it all depends how you practice for a competition. So at the very last 2 weeks before the competition, I was pretty much using all my free time in the evening to practice as much as I can. So it's like hard to say 2 hours, maybe 3 hours a day. But the way you practice is very important, not to just lose the time doing the lap times.
What are you looking for? I mean, winning this competition and attending these big tournaments and having a professional esports player career. Are you looking to real motorsports? Are you looking to see how the esports situation is evolving and then maybe going for a job on that? What are you guys thinking in your secret dreams?
Well, I think that I'm getting a bit old for sim racing right now, and I'm still might be a bit old for professional racing. Yeah, I'm 29. I'm 29, so there's a lot of young talents out there. So yeah, it would be cool to jump in a real car and just test the skills we gained on a simulation in a real life, because I think simulation training is very important nowadays in real motorsport, and you can just save a lot of time practicing on a sim, especially when you got limited time in a real life on track. So it's very important. So I think I'm prepared on a sim to jump in a real car, but we will see how it goes. I got a chance to do it in a couple of days.
Yeah, so thank you very much. It was all the season. It was, simply impressive. So obviously I have to give you this tire. I will give you the plastics, later on. Yeah, it's a dirty job. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you had one in Monza. So yeah, tomorrow it's a car. You can try to build a motorbike. Yeah. So congrats again. Huge thanks to any partner involved during all the season. Obviously to our development team, because you can't imagine how hard is it to push a new game and parallelly to build up an esports season. I think we are honestly the first guys releasing a game and in the same year also having the official season 1 of a competition. So it was literally impressive for all of you guys, from Kevin, from the multiplayer, from Marco as a producer, supporting us and tolerating us in our difficult times. I want to spend some words for the race department guys. The live streaming were absolutely amazing. Steve, Chris, Paul, Bram, thanks everybody. AK Informatica, is I think the tempium of what we can consider esports at the moment, because everything was really fast these years. Obviously, thanks also to all the cockpit manufacturers that we had during the year, to SRO that allowed us to have some space around the paddocks, to Pirelli, not just for the tires, but they actually actively helped the competition, and they actively helped Kunos Development Studio in the R&D section that is improving our physics so much together with the other things. Obviously, Robert, thanks again for your fantastic products, and we will see Robert again tomorrow on the podium, giving the prize where the big guys are going on the real podium with champagne and all the rest. Yeah, and thank obviously to the most important guy of this competition, that is you watching from home, because you helped us to promote what we think that can actually be the future, not just for our game, but also for these guys over here that are putting this effort. So it was a great season. Thank you very much. And I would say good night. We need to sleep. Bye, guys.